So question number 5, Matt. If I'm going to pick just one thing to help me figure out where to invest, what is that single most important feature?
Interesting question, Ming. Here's my answer. This is a map of Toronto. Doesn't tell you much until I get to the next slide. Boom. This is a transit map of Toronto now with all the transit lines. The reason this is important is because of this. So I go to the next slide. There's a report put out by RAIN. It's called the GTA Transportation Effect. And the reason that this report is important is because it describes how if you are within a 10-minute walk of a transit station, and in Toronto, I would actually even expand that to 12 minutes now. If you're within a 12-minute walk of a transit station, when property prices go up in Toronto, properties that are located within a 12-minute walk of a transit station will actually experience an even greater 10 to 20% lift in rental rates and property price increase. Similarly, if there's a decrease in prices in Toronto, if you are within a 10-minute or rather 12-minute walk within a transit station, you will be insulated by the downturn in the market to the tune of 10 to 20% as well in rental rates and in property prices. So that's significant. The reason for that is because transit is how people get around. Transit is how people get to work. Transit is how people get out and visit their friends. Transit is how you get out and see amenities. This is an investment heat map of Toronto. This is really the Rosetta Stone that unlocks the mystery of where to invest in Toronto. This is typically our most photographed slide whenever we deliver this presentation. The red areas are our primary areas, and those are A or A plus neighborhoods, typically on the close to downtown Toronto on the west side and close to downtown Toronto on the east side. The blue areas are our secondary areas. So those would be our B or B plus areas. Those places are a little further from the downtown core, but are still viable investment options unto themselves. The dollar signs are places that it doesn't make sense to invest in Toronto. And that is typically because not only are they expensive, because we're talking about some prime areas there, Yorkville, Forest Hill, Cedarville, Yonge and Egg, etc., Leaside. It's not just because of it's expensive. It's because we can't get the rents that we need in order to support a purchase price of that magnitude. So hopefully this gives you an idea. These are all the major transit lines. We have our subway lines, which go east-west. It's the Bloor Danforth, and then the north-south, the Yonge University. We have our dedicated streetcar lines in downtown Toronto. We have a dedicated streetcar line along St. Clair West. And that's what makes those areas viable, because our tenant profile works in downtown Toronto, as we mentioned before. That's why it's so important. But what we're seeing here is these are existing transit lines. If we're looking 10 years ahead, where we need to be looking is really to the Ontario line. The Ontario line, formerly known as the Downtown Relief Line, starts as of right now. It starts close to the Ontario Science Centre and ends at the exhibition. One place that we find very, very interesting is East Harbour. That's an area that's located at the base of the DVP in Gardiner. It's in Riverside on the east side of downtown Toronto, and we think that is going to be a fantastic area to invest. It's going to create 50,000 new jobs. It's going to be another, basically, Union Station 2. It's going to be the next biggest transit hub after Union Station. So mark our words, in the next 10 years, keep your eye on East Harbour. We love that area. We think there's going to be a lot of opportunity there. The important thing here is only invest after shovels hit the ground, because things can always change. But keep your eye on East Harbour. The other important thing here is that transit is not the only story here. While we think that it's a very, very important aspect of where to invest, it has to dovetail with everything else that we just identified. It has to also dovetail with your customers and where they want to live. It has to dovetail with buyers and where they want to be after they move out of their shoebox condos. So you can't just say, okay, there's a new transit station going up in Vaughan or whatever, and then going out and buying at Vaughan. That's not the way to do it either. It has to be a business model that still makes sense, that incorporates transit as a core element of that. So now that we've gone through the 5 most important questions to ask when investing in real estate, we kind of want to wrap it up. There's a reason that we take this approach here at Volition. It's because we don't want to assume anything. We don't want to assume that we should invest in Toronto just because it's in our backyard. We want to take things back to first principles, just like Elon Musk. Just like Elon Musk doesn't want to assume that he's going to launch a rocket into space and it won't blow up. We can literally invest anywhere in the world. Why would we invest in our backyard? We don't want to assume it's a great place to invest. We want to prove it. And then after we prove it, we want to be able to pinpoint with laser-like precision on the very particular neighborhoods that we actually should invest in. We don't want to leave anything to chance. We want to make sure that this is a risk-mitigated business model. So that's the reason we take this approach.